Blacka had arrived in the parish of St Thomas like a quiet breeze sweeping in from the hills. No one really knew where he came from or who his people were. All they knew was that he bought a large piece of farmland in Landue. They called him Blacka because his skin was a beautiful deep dark complexion. For about a year, he quietly tilled the earth, his hands roughened by the work, his pockets empty. The local women didn't pay him much mind. He was just another poor farmer, good for nothing but hard work and the occasional ripe mango they would beg. Their dismissive glances felt like stones to Blacka, but he never let it show. He poured his soul into his land, his mangoes, and the whispering winds of St. Thomas. Blacka loved St. Thomas. On one hot, sticky afternoon, crammed on a rickety bus headed to Morant Bay, Blacka had a change in his life. He'd spend the morning selling his mangoes at the market. His last handful of change rattled around in his pocket. But by some twist of fate, when the conductor came for his fare, Blacka realized he had lost his money. Panic swept over him as the bus groaned along the narrow country road. "You can't ride for free, na boss," the conductor bellowed, eyeing him with disdain. "You have to come off of this in a lift up, man." Just as Blacka was about to get out and hang his head, a soft, lilting voice from the back of the bus spoke. "I'll pay his fare," said a woman with kind brown eyes. Her name was Shernet, a teacher from Clarendon who had recently moved to St. Thomas. She handed the conductor the money and gave Blacka a warm smile. The kindness in her eyes melted away his embarrassment. "Thank you," Blacka said, his voice low with gratitude. Blacka didn't speak much. He was a man of very few words, and his accent sounded a little off, but since Shernet was from Clarendon, she wasn't sure if perhaps that was a kind of St. Thomas accent. He wasn't used to people doing favors for him, especially not strangers. As the bus rumbled on, they began to talk. Shernet shared stories of her students, and Blacka talked about his farm. By the time they reached their stop, Shernet had given him her phone number, and Blacka promised to repay her kindness someday. Days turned into weeks, and their friendship blossomed like a mango tree in full bloom. Shernet, despite all her qualifications, didn't look down on Blacka. She admired his hard work, his humble spirit, and how he spoke of his mangoes with the same love she spoke of her students. Soon, their friendship turned into something deeper, something that felt as inevitable as the rain falling in the hills. Shernet would wake early to make breakfast for Blacka, packing it into a small basket and walking over to his house. In the evenings, she cooked dinner and helped him clean his small wooden home. Blacka never allowed her to do everything alone. He was always there, washing dishes, sweeping the floors, laughing and talking as the fireflies flickered around them. He tried to pay her for all the help, but Shernet would just shake her head and smile, telling him, "Love don't need payment." But the people of St. Thomas weren't so kind. They sneered at Shernet. The women gossiped at the corner shops, saying she had no ambition, no sense to waste her time with a poor mango farmer. "You a teacher, and him a just farmer," they would scoff. "You can do better, man." Even Blacka's friends whispered in his ear, warning him that teachers were too controlling. "She soon tell you wash her baggy them, as they laughed during their drinks. But none of it mattered to Shernet or Blacka. Their love was a quiet storm, too strong to be shaken by idle talk. One morning, Shernette arrived at her classroom to find a pile of ripe mangoes on her desk, with a note scrawled in crooked handwriting, "From your farmer lover." The students giggled in the back, waiting for her to be embarrassed, but Shernette only smiled. She took the mangoes home that afternoon, blended them into a sweet golden smoothie, and shared it with Blacka. "Let them laugh," she said, wiping a bit of mango pulp from his chin. "They will never understand what we have." Blacka and Shernette's love took them on simple yet magical adventures. They spent lazy Sundays at the bath fountain, letting the healing waters wash away the stress of the world. They walked hand in hand along the shores of Prospect Beach, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, casting long shadows on the sand. And one evening, as the river roared around them at Reggae Falls, Blacka got down on one knee. "Shernette," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "will you marry me?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded, her heart swelling with joy. They embraced under the falling waters, the sound of the river singing their love to the world. Blacka had in his hand one of the most beautiful rings Shernette had ever seen. She wondered where he got the money to buy such a ring, but she didn't want to embarrass him, and she was so happy about the proposal. She took the ring on her finger and hugged him. When the news of their engagement spread, the mocking grew louder. People laughed at Shernette for marrying a man who had nothing but mangoes to his name. They had a very small wedding. Only Shernette's closest relatives from Clarendon were invited. After the ceremony, they went home, played some music, ate some delicious curried goat and jerk chicken, and then everyone went home. When the last relative left, Blacka took Shernette inside and told her that he had something he needed to tell her. Shernette's heart started racing. What could it be? Is he sick? She wondered if he had stolen the money that he used to buy the ring and he was about to confess. So many things rushed through Shernette's mind, but she tried to calm herself. Blacka invited Shernette to sit with him. His eyes held a secret she had never seen before, something mysterious and otherworldly. He took her hand and whispered, "I haven't told you something." Before she could ask what he meant, Blacka stood up and slowly peeled something off his face. Shernette gasped as his dark skin fell away like a mask, revealing pale European features. His voice no longer had that strange accent. All that was now clear was his European accent. "My real name is Prince William VII of the Netherlands," he said, his eyes locking with hers. "I came to Jamaica disguised as a farmer, looking for someone who would love me for who I am, not for my title or wealth." Shernette blinked in disbelief, her heart racing as the revelation sunk in. The man she had fallen in love with, the man she had cooked for, laughed with, and defended, was not just a farmer. He was royalty. William continued, "I saw Tony and Singh become Miss World. It inspired me to find someone with a heart as true as Jamaica's people, and I found you, Shernette." Shernette stood still for a moment, her thoughts spinning. Then she smiled, because none of it mattered whether he was a prince or a farmer. She had loved him all the same. The next morning, the whole town buzzed with the news. Shernette didn't know that her neighbor was close by listening when William was revealing himself, and he spread the word to everyone. People who had once laughed at Shernette now scrambled to befriend her, but it was too late. Shernette quit her job at the high school, and hand in hand with her prince, she left St. Thomas behind. Together they journeyed to the Netherlands, where she became a princess, far away from the judgmental eyes of those who had never truly seen her. As they boarded the plane, Shernette hummed softly to herself, the words of a familiar reggae song playing in her headphones. Don't let them change ya, oh no, or even rearrange ya. She glanced at Blacker, now Prince William, and smiled. She continued singing, could you be loved? Oh yeah, and be loved. Could you be loved? Could you be loved? Say something. And so, the Netherlands got their first Jamaican blood as a part of the royal family. Shernette was happy, and she granted all her family from Clarendon special passports to visit the Netherlands whenever they wanted. Her uncle Starkey even got his citizenship granted quickly because he visited the royal palace and they loved his music, so he migrated to the Netherlands as a sound player. The parties at the palace were never the same. Just like that, Shernette became Princess of the Netherlands with her handsome William by her side. Sometimes she calls him Blacker, just for the fun of it. Like, follow, and share for more Jamaican stories. It's fiction.